We have emotions. We're human. We're not robots. We're as impacted by this as the rest of the public is.
I think that showing up for one another, being there for one another, encouraging each other, that's really what today is about.
It's very helpful to be able to sit amongst your peers who just went through the same thing. And be able to talk and get those emotions out.
We are stronger when we come together. That linkage of arms is really critical for us, and that, I think, is the evolution of Spartan Strong as we move forward.
I wanted the message to say, let's try to hang together and be together, and don't make a crisis the only time we do it.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight at 6 o'clock as we mark the one-year anniversary of the mass shooting at Michigan State University. I'm Sherry Jones.
And I'm Siobhan Klepfer. We have devoted the last hour to MSU coverage, looking back at the tragedy and looking ahead as Spartan Nation heals and moves forward.
And we have another 30 minutes of uninterrupted coverage. We begin our commercial-free coverage with a look ahead to the biggest and likely the most emotional of today's tributes.
It's a gathering set to start tonight at the Sparty statue.
Our team coverage begins with Josh Sanchez, who's joining us live from campus tonight to talk about what's ahead at the memorial ceremony. Josh?
Well, Sherry and Siobhan, last year's remembrances took people here from the Spartan statue on a walk down to the banks of the Red Cedar where the MSU Rock is. And we are seeing something similar here tonight with a bunch of people gathering here by the Spartan statue to pay their respects before there are further remembrances right next to Spartan Stadium. And that gathering will take place at 7 to bring people together to reflect through art and give their input into what a permanent memorial should look like. Now, while we've been out here, like I said, many members of the campus community, from professors to students, have stopped by to pay their respects, either by dropping off flowers or to lean on one another. Now, later tonight at 8, people are invited to light little green luminaries that were passed out yesterday. Now, at the same time, green lights will shine upon the Union and Berkey Hall, where students were lost that day. Now, I did speak to one student who stopped to reflect, and even though she's a first-year student here, she says she's been doing her best to check in on some of her older friends who were on campus that night.
Quite literally, I think it just means to be one big family. It may sound very cliche to everyone that may hear that, but I think it's the truth.
Thank you, McCoy. We have not heard much from the people who were wounded a year ago today.
Nor have we heard much from the families of the 3 students who died on February 13th of last year.
But that silence was broken briefly on December 15th. That's the day the MSU Board of Trustees announced the school would settle with the families of the students who died. They're getting $5 million each. Later that day, Alexandria Verner's parents lifted the veil briefly to talk about their daughter.
A very funny, sensitive human being, and horribly sad that she's not here with us today. I would take her back in a minute than to sit here in front of any of you.
Verner's parents said they would use the money from the settlement to create scholarships in Alex's honor.
We also reached out to the attorney who is representing the families of Brian Frazier and Ariel Anderson. Frazier was a sophomore when he died, Anderson a junior. Both of them, coincidentally, were from Grosse Pointe. Both families declined to comment, although they did issue a statement through their attorney. He said, although no amount of money can ever mend the shattered hearts of these parents after suffering the unspeakable loss of their children, we appreciate how MSU has done the right thing under these horrible circumstances.
We also wanted to catch you up on some of the students who were injured in last year's shooting. In fact, at least one of them was back on campus today.
Guadalupe Wapia Perez, or Lupe, was a junior in the hospitality business program at this time last year.
And despite numerous injuries and numerous surgeries, she is back at school. Earlier this afternoon, she was at a lunch sponsored by the offices of MSU's Migrant Student Services. She is a part of one of their programs, the College Assistant Migrant Program, or CAMP. She was joined by her family and a little brown dog as she met with CAMP faculty and students. It was this community that many students of migrant workers and Latino backgrounds that a school official said made it easier for her to come back to campus.
She's definitely turned a corner. And she's smiling, laughing, and it's a sign of her becoming what she came here for, and that is to be a student.
Well, that safe storage law in particular means more people will need to physically secure their guns at home.
And to help with that, we here at TV6 held gun lock giveaway events today in Lansing and Jackson.
We started at 11 o'clock this morning, and people were already lined up to get a gun. In fact, we had given away more than 60 of them in Lansing. Now, officials say with the new gun safety laws in place, it is more important than ever to secure your guns, especially if you have young children in your home. Assistant Lansing Police Chief Robert Backus spoke with us today about why it's so important for people to make sure their guns are stored safely and not just hiding at home.
You don't know who's going to be looking around inside your house. You may have children of your own. You may have children visiting you.
Our gun lock giveaway in Jackson took place at the police department.
Our Nate Salazar was there and is here for you now with a look at that event.
Down in Jackson, outside of the Jackson Police Department, we were giving out gun locks as well. And while it may not have been as good a turnout as in Lansing, we still had a lot of people show up.
Just take a few minutes and do it. It's cheap insurance, because the worst thing is somebody to get hurt accidentally. So
we think it's important as law enforcement, as citizens of our city, to keep guns always locked up.
From the air and on the ground, Michigan State Police troopers and Hillsdale County Sheriff deputies blocked sections of Osseo Road and Beecher Road in Hillsdale County's Jefferson Township. Their goal, to find Michael Fidler. Lieutenant Renee Gonzalez with Michigan State Police says shortly after 2 o'clock this afternoon, a Hillsdale County Sheriff's deputy pulled over Fidler. When the deputy tried to take him into custody, police say Fidler shot him with a handgun.
Then the subject fled on foot. There was another deputy on scene, and they had taken the deputy and threw him in the car and took him to the hospital. Unfortunately, the deputy did not survive.
For hours, police looked for Fidler until Lieutenant Gonzalez says he was found walking in a nearby field around 6:15, leading to a gunfight.
They attempted to take him into custody. He decided to exchange gunfire with our emergency services team and was killed.
Lieutenant Gonzalez says Fidler had a criminal history with several warrants. Now, Michigan State Police are investigating 2 shooting scenes, the location of the traffic stop and the field where Fidler was killed. Shantae Foster lives nearby and was outside when police found Fidler in the field.
I will probably never forget hearing those gunshots and what they were for. I have never heard anything like that, and I don't think I ever want to hear it again. It was absolutely terrifying, but there was some relief knowing that after the gunshots were over, it was done with.
She says now the tight-knit community is hurting.
This kind of thing doesn't happen here. We're such a small town, it just doesn't happen here. We don't have this crime here, and to see that it's getting closer and closer to home is scary.
Shots fired. Shots fired. We got a subject. We have an officer down.
It was a basic traffic stop. He was shot. It hit a little closer to home, knowing that we've known him for years, and he was one of the good ones, one of the good guys.
Londa Obi recalls walking out of her house yesterday on Beecher Road to a massive police presence. A Hillsdale County deputy had just been shot.
Departments from all over, local, Jackson, Lenawee, we had Lansing was down here. They came to action quick to get this guy off the streets.
The deputy killed 51-year-old William Butler Jr. Now, more than a day since the tragedy, members of Hillsdale's tight-knit community have come out in numbers to show their support for the married father of 3. Placing flowers and donating food to the office of the sheriff, and law enforcement even pulled Deputy Butler's car to the front and decorated it for everyone to see.
Stories of combat deployments and military promotions are not lining up with the records of the founder of a Mid-Michigan Veterans Organization. It is our top story tonight at 11. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sherry Jones.
And I'm Siobhan Klepfer. The founder of a Livingston County Veterans Service Dog organization claimed a career in the U.S. Air Force filled with deployments and tactical training.
However, an extensive 6 News investigation has uncovered records that tell a much different story.
Josh Sanchez joins us now to unpack part 1 of this report. Josh?
Sherry, Siobhan, I first met Kirk Lanham, the founder of Veteran Service Dogs organization, back in 2021. Now, while his volunteers have connected vets to critical service dogs, our investigations team found that the stories and uniforms that Lanham would wear did not line up with his service record.
Obviously, you know, in the military, you never leave your brother behind. You always have to help, right? So basically, we saw a need.
This is Kirk Lanham, founder of Veteran Service Dogs Organization in Osceola Township in 2021. The volunteers of the organization would help connect veterans with dogs and train them both to create a bond between human and canine. Promoting the nonprofit, multiple volunteers say Lanham would appear in an Air Force uniform, with some photos obtained by 6 News showing him wearing a 1-star or 2-star general rank. He made that history public in a Hamburg Township meeting back in April 2023.
Good afternoon. My name is Brigadier General Kirk Lanham. I am 34 years on paper with the United States Air Force and 22 years of active combat. 318 deployments.
However, documents shared with the 6 News Investigates team reveal a different service history, one that lasts less than 2 years, with Lanham separating from the Air Force as an Airman Basic, or E1, an enlisted rank, not one of an officer. Edgar Jones was one of those volunteers who says his suspicions grew in recent months. Earlier this week, we showed him the 1-page service record we got from the National Personnel Record Center of the National Archives.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Jones says Lanham claims that the 2-star promotion came from meeting with the Secretary of the Navy, Carlos Del Toro.
He made a lot of claims, having to leave the country or having to meet at the Pentagon or some other location with a person he would refer to as Carlos. Turned out to be the Secretary of the Navy.
In a statement, a spokesperson for the Department of the Navy says the branch did not have any records showing Lanham was in the Navy, nor records of him meeting with senior Navy leadership. Lanham agreed to meet with us this week, but hours before our interview, he said he had to cancel because he was helping a veteran in crisis. At the organization's facility in Osceola Township, just outside of Howell, we rang the doorbell that asked us to leave a message. Walking around the facility, we noticed security cameras following us, as well as garage doors slightly open. When I tried to leave a message, here's what our team heard.
We were hoping to talk with you. I was hoping to catch up since the last time we talked was...
Property now. You have been trespassed. The police have been called.
Along with dogs barking and someone trying to keep them quiet. Our team tried to call and text Lanham and even emailed our questions, but did not hear back. Well, Sherry Siobhan, in the military and veteran community, there's a tradition called the challenge coin, which is considered a token of friendship or a job well done. And Edgar Jones gave me his Air Force Special Operations Command coin that Lanham gave to him. And he tells us that now, after finding everything out, it's not worth the medal it's made of.
Josh, in your investigation, did you learn anything more about Lanham?
Well, we have a lot more to this investigation. That's why we have it on WLNS.com. And we also found that there was a federal conviction in Lanham's record.
Okay. What does this mean for the Veteran Service Dogs organization?
There's a lot more developing to this story, and our team is looking into that. So we'll bring those updates as soon as we get them.
Okay. Thank you, Josh. So we do have an update for you tonight from Meridian Township. The township manager admits to 6 News that he sometimes conducts his private business in his office during regular business hours.
In addition to his responsibilities in Meridian Township, Frank Walsh runs a headhunting firm for other cities, towns, and townships that are looking for staff.
Walsh says that, quote, 99% of his township time is devoted to his main job, that sometimes clients call him during office hours, that he routes all work to his personal phone, email, and computer, and takes vacation time to cover any conflicts. But a source familiar with Walsh's work says he spends as much as 20% of his time on Walsh Management Services. And that's also the impression of several other sources who all asked to remain anonymous out of fear of retaliation. While an actual percentage is hard to quantify, an expert says it's hard for someone to be objective about their own outside work.
What I found in that work is that people tend to underestimate the amount of resources that they've either used or have taken advantage of from their company or their employer.
Walsh, who would only respond to 6 News via email, was the subject of a recent township investigation. We've got an extensive story about this on our website for you, WLNS.com. Meridian Township's manager is resigning following a months-long investigation, but he's not going far. The township plans to rehire him in a different role. It's our top story at 11. Thank you for joining us. I'm Siobhan Klepfer.
And I'm Sherry Jones. It took 7 months of investigations and 2 days of closed meetings for Meridian Township's Board of Trustees to come to the conclusion it was time for Frank Walsh to resign and take on a new role.
According to employees of the township who wish to remain anonymous, the decision was taken in part after the results of an external investigation into complaints against Walsh.
When the board came into open session around 7:15 tonight, they voted unanimously to negotiate a resignation deal plus a consulting contract with Walsh.
Rachel Ramsey is here for you now with Walsh's response.
Sherry, Siobhan, it took more than 4.5 hours for the trustees to come to the decision to negotiate Frank Walsh's resignation. Part of that negotiated deal will include a consulting contract with the township. Frank Walsh says that new role is yet to be defined, but will play a major part in the township, and that it's time to move forward in a different direction. All of this stems from what sources tell 6 News was an investigation into complaints against Walsh that had to do with unfair distribution of employee wellness and recognition dollars, and that he used township resources for his consulting business. I spoke with Walsh today, and he says he rarely conducted his consulting business while at the township, but when he did, he claims he had permission.
I wouldn't do that. I have my home office, I have a home computer, and I have my own cell phone for the business. It was not conducted in this office. There were 3 or 4 or 5 Zoom calls that occurred with the permission from the Supervisor Steica, and that's that.
Ron Steica, the township supervisor, died unexpectedly in February of 2022. 6 News obtained documents and interviews revealing Walsh was using his office for consulting business more than 18 months after Steica's death. Now, we don't know what Walsh's severance will look like, but 6 News did get a hold of Walsh's contract, which has a severance clause to receive 1 year's worth of salary if the board demanded a resignation, which is what happened tonight. And for Walsh, that's almost $161,000. If he had resigned on his own, there would have been no severance. I asked how he and the board came to that decision.
We had some discussions with the board, and I can't really talk about what happened in closed session at all, but let's just say there's a lot of appreciation and respect for each other, and there's a lot of respect and appreciation for myself and most all of our team members here, and we all decided to move forward with a different role, and I'll have a significant role with the township going forward, and that will from now until probably the end of the year.
Walsh tells us as a consultant he will work mostly from his home office, not at the township offices. The board will hold a rare Sunday meeting at 10 a.m. to finalize Walsh's negotiated resignation deal. Sherry, Siobhan, back to you. Come to you with breaking news. We're hearing about people waving Nazi flags outside of a Diary of Anne Frank play in Howell. A member of the Howell American Legion Post tells 6 News they let a community theater group use their building to put on the event. The member says the Legion has heard about rising anti-Semitism and thought people could learn from the play. The night ended with people outside of the Legion waving Nazi flags. We're told once these people started being filmed, they left the area.
Play that we're hosting here at the Post. It's historical, and it's something that people can learn from, and well, this is the kind of crap you have to put up with.
We have plans to talk with the Legion and members of the play soon. We will keep you updated as we learn more.
Message of hate in Livingston County after Nazi demonstrations in 2 communities. It's our top story at 11. Thank you for joining us. I'm Siobhan Klepfer.
And I'm Sherry Jones. The demonstrations were by people with their faces covered, waving Nazi flags in Livingston County on Saturday night.
One was outside American Legion 141 in Howell, where the performance of the Diary of Anne Frank was taking place, while the other was outside the Fellowville Community Theater, whose members were putting on the play.
Now, the theater released a statement today detailing what happened. Organizers say they became aware of the protesters during the first act of the play and notified American Legion staff, who said the situation was under control.
The audience and performers were informed at intermission. The show went on, and the theater group finished the play.
Now, the theater released a statement today praising the strength and professionalism of the performers.
The Diary of Anne Frank tells a story of people who lost their lives during the Holocaust. 6 million Jewish people were killed by Nazis and their allies. The theater says the protesters provided, quote, a small glimpse of the fear and uncertainty felt by those in hiding.
Now, this comes after a White Lives Matter demonstration back in August in downtown Howell.
Mayor Bob Ellis and Republican State Representative-elect Jason Wolford rejected the message of hateful demonstrations.
would say to those that are using our community, and in most cases don't even live here, to promote a message of hate, quit coming here.
When the protesters came in August, it was national news, and it's very difficult to respond to that because we don't have a national voice.
Now, the Howell community has been trying for years to distance itself from historic connections to racism. A former leader of the Ku Klux Klan once lived in that area.
The sheriff of Livingston County released a statement today on the recent Nazi protests in Howell and Fowlerville.
And those demonstrations were in response to a production of the play The Diary of Anne Frank.
Sheriff Mike Murphy explained his deputies did not arrest those demonstrators or publicly identify them because while they were, quote, spewing venom, end quote, they did not do anything illegal. On the topic of how people should respond, the sheriff recalled a different protest when the KKK showed up in Howell back in the late 1990s. And the community ignored it.
And there was about 6 people that showed up. That was one of the proudest days ever for me in this county because the community stayed away. They didn't get the rise. They were supposed to be there for like 4 hours or something like that. They were literally there for about a half an hour. They packed up and they left. That's exactly what we need to do with these knuckleheads.
Sheriff Murphy also took the opportunity to mock the Nazi protesters for wearing masks and sunglasses to hide their identities.
And now, 6 News proudly presents Remarkable Women.
Hello and welcome to one of our favorite specials of the year. You know, we usually tackle some pretty tough topics, but this one is fun. A celebration of some of the women who make Mid-Michigan a better and brighter place to be. And it's not an easy task. That's because we have to sort through more than 100 nominations from people just like you. And then we narrow down that list to 4 remarkable women each year.
And now, 6 News proudly presents Mid-Michigan Counts. And now, 6 News presents an Earth Day special report.
And now, 6 News presents Honoring Black History.
And now, 6 News proudly presents Veterans Voices.
Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin joins me now in the studio. Congresswoman, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So you currently represent Michigan's 7th Congressional District. Can you talk to us a little bit about that transition if you're elected as a U.S. Senator, how you go from representing one region to the entire state?
Yeah, well, it's been the best thing I've ever done to represent this area, Lansing and the 6 counties around it. And if I'm lucky enough to earn people's votes and win, then you go from representing, 700,000 people-ish to representing 10 million people across the state of Michigan. Hi, everybody. I'm Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin. It has been the honor of my life to be Lansing's Congresswoman, Lansing area's Congresswoman. Now I'm running to be your senator to replace Debbie Stabenow, who's been serving the Lansing area for over 50 years. I'm running for 2 major reasons, both substance and style. On substance, I've made it my business to get out as much as I can to listen to people in the Lansing area, really hear what keeps them up at night, what's bothering them, what's keeping them from doing exactly what they want to do with their lives, and then taking that, translating that into what I fight for in Washington.
Former Congressman and current U.S. Senate candidate Mike Rogers is joining me now in the studio. Mr. Rogers, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Good. So a key issue you are running on right now is wanting to reduce violent crime. A new report just came out from the FBI that it did drop about 3% overall from 2022 to 2023. Is this still something that you are concerned about? And if so, how do you plan on fixing it?
Absolutely. And the unfortunate thing is the FBI doesn't have good numbers anymore because they have a lot less reporting. And police departments are charging what used to be felonies as misdemeanors to kind of get this mill of prisoners coming in and going out.
Hi, I'm Mike Rogers, Republican candidate for the United States Senate. America is a special place, full of hope and opportunity, but our way of life has come under attack. gas, groceries, and housing are unaffordable. Our border is broken, and fentanyl and violent crime are pouring through. Our schools have lost their way, and the government wants to mandate what kind of vehicle we have to drive and tell the auto workers what kind of car they have to build.
And now, 6 Sports march to glory.
It was a little bit more traumatic this year. It was a little more unknown than maybe most years.
You've got to play with an attack mentality as opposed to playing careful.
You got to win 2 games, and then you go on to the next weekend.
Do you allow yourself to think like, uh-oh, maybe we don't get in, or when they get to the 4th region and you haven't seen your name called, do you allow yourself to think that way of like, you guys are done?
Not most years, but this year I did. Sure. Night before, that's why I said I was watching a game on the night before, and the first time I saw Michigan State as last 4 in or a bubble team. Now, that's just one guy's prediction, but it was on national TV, and that was a sleepless night because I thought we were in. And but 95% of the time we've been in solidly, and what we're fighting for is different seeds. So, yeah, unique, different, but now that I've been through it, I'm glad I went through it because maybe it'll help me appreciate what we've accomplished here and what we've done and what the players have done before me, and hopefully it'll be a better situation.
You've developed a nickname from a lot of fans, Mr. March. What do you enjoy about this time of the year of it being one and done and, you know, winning the weekend?
Yeah, you know, I stole that, of course, from Mike Krzyzewski many years ago. You know, the first time I went, I was trying to win a game. And then the second time when we were picked to get to a Final Four, the second time that we were really involved when Cleves and them were juniors, I realized that winning a game doesn't matter anymore. And that was my second year in the NCAA tournament, 24 years ago as far as that goes. And I said, from now on, you have to win the weekend, you know. And so I did go with that mentality, and my staff picks up on it. We coach accordingly to that. We prepare accordingly to that. It's one game at a time, and I think when I first said, yeah, I'm going to try to win the weekend, I mean, people got, you know, like, don't look to the next game, but you have no choice when you're in a program like this. You're not just trying to win a game. So my favorite part of it is I've been in it long enough that I believe you could be a 10 seed, or you could be a 2 seed, or you could be a 1 seed or a 7 seed. Especially now, your chances of getting there aren't good. They're just as good as everybody else's. It's just the parity or whatever it is, but people have to realize that, you know, you got to win 2 games, and then you go on to the next weekend.
All right, next up is Inspiration of the Year. In this award, we pick nominees based on if they were overcoming an injury or just some kind of impact within the community that we felt was deserving of this award. All right, and our winner is the Hesbrook family from Ithaca.
Well, first off, congratulations. What has it been like to be able to see the community really rally around you guys during such a tough time, and just the impact you guys have been able to have with the B4 Foundation?
We live in a special community, and the city of Ithaca is a special place, and they've been very supportive of our family, and as have all the communities surrounding, to be honest with you, and we're thankful for that.
You guys have spoken to almost 20 schools, over 6,000 students about your message. What's the most important message of what you're going to say to them each and every time?
I think what Alan said up here, everybody's going through something right now, and you know, you've probably heard this before. Some of the young people in the room maybe haven't, but it's okay to not be okay. I think we've all heard that before, but you have to speak up and tell somebody. And I think that's one of the messages that the B4 Foundation is pushing is we have to get people talking.
Here's a scene at the 6 News Eclipse in the Park in Jackson. Hundreds of people came out to Nixon Park, some wearing our free glasses and others who brought their own. It was an event that some people have been looking forward to for decades.
It's not our first time. We were kids, and I just Googled it. I couldn't remember the date, but I knew it was in the 70s. 1970, March 3rd was the last time they had one, and I was a kid, and it was really cool to watch, so we wanted to do it again.
That's when you used to put a pinhole in a paper plate.
To watch it. That's what they told you to do back then before they came out with the glasses.
And while they were a little closer to the totality zone than Lansing, Jackson still topped out at around 96% coverage, just like the capital city.
Thanks for joining us on this Feel Good Friday. I'm Siobhan Klepfer. In the world of competitive cheerleading, there's a division called Cheer Abilities. It's for people with special needs and gives them the opportunity to join competitive cheer alongside their peers. Michigan's first elite Cheer Abilities team formed in Lansing, which recently became the state's first to compete in the All-Star World Championships in Orlando, Florida. I went to a team practice to learn more about the program that is paving the path for others in the state.
Get higher.
Inside a Lansing gymnasium adorned with dozens of trophies and banners, it's not about the hardware.
You give them the opportunity to try, and they'll do it.
It's the hard work.
Assume they can, and they will.
This pride of Wildcats athletes brings new meaning to the word pride for Coach Isla. She beams with it, watching them work.
Cheerability is a huge passion of mine, and I breathe it, live it, constantly thinking about it.
Coach Isla started the Cheer Abilities program 5 years ago with Super Cats, a team for everyone to believe in themselves and belong. Are you having fun?
I'm having fun.
They include you no matter your ability, your age.
I just love being on a cheer team that can be right for me. I can be who I truly am here.
From the coy,
You spin around.
you spin around, to the confident. Doing stunts with carefully crafted routines.
It's time to turn it up.
What are you looking forward to doing next? Is there a new
backflip?
A backflip?
Yep.
I kind of like to do the run and tumbling and some handstands.
They've been unlocking new skills.
My favorite stunt is pyramid. I love handstands and back bends, more handstands and more back bends.
Good job!
Good job!
And perhaps equally as exciting,
My cheerleaders here.
they're the best part of the experience.
Yes.
And are you making friends?
Yeah.
It's fun here. I like all my friends and all my coaches.
Not only Coach Isla, but also volunteer coaches and buddies like Lila, Chloe, and Ella, who work one-on-one with the athletes needing a little extra support and encouragement. And there's been plenty to cheer about this past year, with the newest Cheer Abilities team, the Elite Power Cats, making it to the finals at the All-Star Worlds in Florida.
It felt great finally getting to go to Worlds.
Yeah, that must have been
Competing against cheer gyms from like other states, even other countries. That's another thing, just seeing them take the lead in Michigan and paving that path is just incredible.
And Cheer Abilities has been incredible for Gary Fredericks. His daughter Bella has autism, and he gets emotional watching her perform.
I turn into a marshmallow, just knowing the struggles that she's had in certain areas of life, where she gets to come in here, work hard. It's amazing, the amount of growth that she's gotten. And I mean, she walks a little taller, she's more coordinated, athletic.
Whether your child can walk, whether your child is in a wheelchair, whether your child can speak, whether your child may have some challenging behaviors or challenging days, like everyone here embraces everybody.
There's no shortage of pride in this Wildcats family among the parents within the program.
1, 2, 3, 5, 7.
But perhaps most important of all,
They have strengths that they don't know about. To help them bring that out is really cool.
the pride these Wildcats feel on the inside.
1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
We're actually joining David over here because the weather is the top story all over southern Michigan tonight.
Yes, so David, what happened today and what can we expect for tonight?
I mean, really interesting afternoon with lots of severe weather across portions of mid-Michigan. Let's kind of recap where things are and where things are going during the overnight hours. Notice we've got a few showers and storms east. That is the severe weather to our west. Yeah, there's more activity, but this likely will not be severe in nature. Just a few scattered showers and storms during the overnight. We rewind the clock, take a look at these storms as they move through. These were supercell rotating thunderstorms, several of them all across mid-Michigan. As we look at a different product, this is tracking where there's shear or rotation in the air, and there were 4 distinct areas of rotation that moved through this afternoon. We'll let this roll through one more time. One of those moving through Portage, another one moving into northwestern sections of Branch County, and that's where we had the tornado reports, not surprisingly. One of the viewer pictures coming in, we'll take a look at more of these coming up out of Portage of quite a bit of damage. But why today were we looking at tornadoes as opposed to straight line winds, which we typically see quite a bit? Well, the basic setup is we had winds at the surface coming in from one direction. Aloft, we had winds coming in from a different direction. Those two create some rotation in the atmosphere. The thunderstorm, the updraft is so strong, it turns that rotation into the vertical, making a mesocyclone and or severe weather. We saw a wall cloud or two initially, and then as the storms intensified, those same storms, it wasn't a funnel cloud anymore. Then we were looking at tornadoes on the ground. We'll have more on tonight's severe weather coming up in just a few minutes.
This is Weather First, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
Well, today, one of those incredible days with multiple tornadoes making their way across lower Michigan. Thankfully, we're done with severe weather, but check out Live Storm Tracker 6 Doppler radar. A few more showers and storms over Lake Michigan. These should be non-severe as they move in, but a little more thunder and lightning is possible late tonight. Let's rewind the clock again. I want to go back to this shear tracker and point out those areas of rotation. There were basically 4 distinct areas that moved across the southwestern corner of the state, and all of those were producing tornadoes. That's the basic track each one of those took. One of those coming close to Kalamazoo and the Portage area. Another one moving across northwestern Branch County, one into Hillsdale County as well. Radar showed classic supercell thunderstorms, which are basically rotating thunderstorms all the way up through the column of air, and enough rotation to drop several tornadoes. Velocity, I mean, it's easy to pick out. The reds and the greens, there goes the one that moved near Portage, and then the other one that moved through northwestern Branch County also was fairly strong as well. We're going to flip this up on its side. The 3D view, this is where the tornado was, as it was just to the southwest of Portage. We'll move a little further in time, and it's still pretty evident. You see the green sticking up right there, reds and greens right beside each other. That was just before it hit the Portage area. Still very distinct as it made its way further north and east. This is around when it was hitting Portage, and there you can see it. That's the tornado right there as it quickly began to move east, and thankfully after that started to weaken some. Katie Nicolau captured this shot from Three Rivers, southwestern corner of the state as the storm was first coming through. Then the damage started to roll in. This is from our sister station, Wood TV, out of Portage. Notice windows blown out, shingles off, stores heavily damaged. And it wasn't just things like trees and power lines and stuff like that. I mean, entire buildings were in jeopardy of coming down. This was a shot from the inside looking out in Portage. Check out those winds, just incredible this afternoon. And this particular shot, this is from Centerville. Notice behind the barn back there, completely destroyed because of those strong winds and a potential tornado as well. This is, no question what this is. This was the tornado captured near Minden this afternoon. Fairly healthy tornado. I would not be surprised to see some of these EF ratings, probably 2 or 3. This is the shot of the FedEx building. The whole side of the building was missing. Folks were just kind of trapped inside because of some down power lines, but thankfully everyone okay there. Stephanie McCoy, your brother, sent this shot. Now at first this looks like a very small tornado, but let this play out. As we zoom back around, you'll see how quickly it went from kind of a small rope-like tornado to a fairly large tornado as it began to gather strength and all that inflow wind blowing into that storm. Absolutely incredible.
Tonight at 11. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sherry Jones.
And I'm Siobhan Klepfer. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump shared a vision of harsh border policies with county sheriffs and supporters in Grand Rapids this afternoon.
He also made campaign promises of closed borders and intensive deportation, which did not sit very well with Michigan.